Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about how to gain confidence in your first year as a medical coder. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys, so I'm going to read you an email that I got from a viewer, but I want to say a couple things first. If this is your first year as a medical coder and maybe you've just passed your certification exam and you're out there and you're working your first job, maybe you're working in an HCC position for risk adjustment, and so you're only coding diagnosis codes and you're feeling very nervous because you wonder if you did the right thing or if you're ever going to get fast enough. You will. This is something that is brand new to you. This is something that you are just learning, okay? And it is going to take time to learn. You shouldn't be beating yourself up over the fact that you don't know, you don't understand. The fact that you're saying to yourself, I don't know, I don't understand, already tells you, okay, this is a problem that I need to address, which is, how do I get more knowledgeable? And I'm going to talk about that today, but let me read this email. So here we go. Hi, Blue. I have watched your videos from time to time and have found them very helpful. And I'm going to stop this right here real quick too. I have tons of videos, guys, and all of the things that she addressed in here could have been easily found in my videos. So if you send me an email like this, don't expect a response back, because I'm not responding to this email. But I will say this, guys, the advice is out there. And if you don't want to go through all the videos, you can just type in whatever your question is, and you can put medical coding with Blue, okay? You can put it into Google, and it will bring up a YouTube video about it, okay? Whether it is your first year in medical coding, whether it is your advice for 2 years in medical coding, what study tips and things like that, it's all out there, okay? It's all out there. It's just sheer, like wanting me to hand feed you, and I'm not doing it, okay? For you to send an email like this, don't do it. Don't do it, okay? So continuing, I passed my CPC exam on the first try. However, I feel very lost while taking my 2 internships. Practicode, which is not an internship, but she's calling it an internship because it's a educational product offered with AAPC. Practicode felt like a nightmare and barely passed. It's not multiple choice, that's why. The HCC internship is just as bad for me. The problem I find is that when they list 20 things, and I have a hard time knowing which 9 things out of the 20 that they actually want me to code. It seems like on one case, they want to require, she puts SP and meds. I don't know what she's saying there. But on another case, they also want to provide the same information, but then in that case, they do not require those to be coded, and you will get it wrong if you do code it. It seems like some cases they want Y and W codes. That has to do with injuries, okay? Telling more of the story with the injury codes. Some cases do not, because not every case is going to be an injury case. Sometimes they will let you know in that case that there is a second E&M code, which I'm not sure really what she's talking about here. If she's saying that she's doing HCC, because HCC does not involve E&M coding. And the only way that you would code a second E&M is if you're doing like prolonged services. And I know like tobacco cessation falls under the E&M chapter too, but really, but sometimes they just want you to code that second E&M code, and then sometimes not. I have been on the interview for a company twice now, and it seems like they want to hire me, knowing that I am almost finished with my internship. But honestly, I feel so lost. I feel like I have absolutely no clue which codes they really want coded. I am so afraid of getting this job and failing. They know that I have not yet worked and done actual coding for a company, yet they want to hire you. So shouldn't you feel better about that? They know the only experience that I have is from this internship. but I'm afraid of failure. That's on you, my darling. That is on you, and you should not be afraid of failing. I'm afraid of getting let go because I don't make the daily quota. So we're going to worry ourselves about it until it happens, right? What are we trying to do here, people? I mean, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I picked something that is in over my head. Please let me know what you think. Any advice or insights would be much appreciated. Like I said, I'm not responding to this message because I've got so many advice videos on my channel as it is. But when we preoccupy ourselves with worrying about worry and worrying about being so afraid, that's what robs us from any kind of fulfilling future. You know, you have to do things afraid. Okay, this scared culture that we live in, where everything, and people are being more and more fearful that, you know, even young people have to go to a class to learn how to pick up a phone and speak on the phone because they get so nervous that they don't want to speak on the phone at all, which I don't understand that, but I don't understand, guys. I really don't. I don't understand the fear of a phone. Some people don't like talking on the phone. I get it, but it shouldn't be so bad that you're so fearful that you have to go to a class in order to work through that fear. I mean, I'm glad that they are doing it, but again, we need to stop with all this fear. It's just an unnecessary emotion that is stealing of the futures of so many people because they're allowing it to happen like that. They're allowing that to happen that way. And the first thing that I can see here that this person is absolutely not doing is reading the coding guidelines. If you don't read the ICD-10 CM official guidelines for coding and reporting, you will be lost. You will be lost. Why? Because those guidelines will tell you chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter, all through that book. It will tell you, these are the rules for coding this. These are the rules for coding this. It tells you what codes you're supposed to pick up, what things are supposed to be relevant, and what is for really for statistical reasons. Okay? And the reason that I know that she's not reading the coding guidelines is because she's referring to Y and W codes. Well, I know that those W codes, those are for your injuries. That's your external cause codes. It's talking about, you know, how did the injury happen? The Y codes are for like your activity codes, for example. And so the fact that you don't know this, that tells me that you're not reading the coding guidelines. If you're not reading the coding guidelines, you will always be lost. You're not supposed to memorize the guidelines, but you're supposed to have gone through them enough that you know, and you can, okay, I got it. You can kind of remember. You're not memorizing them because they do update, but you know them enough to say, wait a minute, I remember something about that. And then you can reference those guidelines and you can look and confirm your thought process. If you're not using your book to practice with in the evening, because during your first couple of years, you absolutely should still be working through a workbook. Okay, it doesn't matter which workbook that you get, but I do recommend the Nelly book, the ICD-10 CM and ICD-10 PCS Coding Handbook with the Answers. It is one book, okay, and it covers diagnosis coding and it covers inpatient procedure coding. If you do not know about ICD-10 PCS, if that was not part of your certification exam, which with the CPC is not, you can skip those questions. Because there's plenty of diagnosis coding scenarios in there that you can work with. Not only that, if your books are Optum, if you have the Optum coding books, right? The ICD-10 CM book, as I've showed many times, there are questions and it gives you the answers and it gives you the rationale. There's little scenarios before every single chapter, because before every single chapter, there's a copy of that chapter specific guidelines in the tabular section that you can read. And then of course it's giving you those examples in between, but you can cover up those answers. You can look up the questions yourself and see where you are. Because if you're not doing that, or you're not practicing that, how will you ever know how to code? And coding is not linear. It is not going to go in a straight line where everybody does the same thing and we have the same 9 codes and we have the same this and we have the same that. Absolutely not. doctors will document differently, and patients are not always going to come in with the same complaints. There's going to be things that do resolve that you will not have to pick up. There will be things that are not going to be relevant to this encounter. But again, how do you know that? You know that simply by reading the coding guidelines. And if you're not doing that, you are part of the problem. You are creating all of this anxiety and all of this fear for nothing. For absolutely nothing. And for those of you that want to do the shortcuts and you want the quick way and, oh no, I don't have to use the books because we're using the electronic health record, we're using the encoder, that may all be fine and well. But if you don't know how to navigate in the encoder, which it is possible to not know how to navigate in the encoder, because if you don't understand the decision tree that you have to follow and you don't answer those questions correctly, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get the wrong code, and then you're going to code it like you know, and of course you don't know. But how do we get rid of that problem? We get rid of that problem by familiarizing ourselves with the book. Do you have to use a book every time at work? Absolutely not. It's only when you get stuck that you're like, okay, well, do I code this? And what about this combination code? Because there's combination codes too. If a person has one part of this disease, or there's a good chance they're going to have something else too. It's like when you see chronic kidney disease and hypertension, you're always going to use that combination code. You're always going to use that because the doctor does not have to put those together, hypertension due to chronic kidney disease. They are always going to go together. And how do you know that? You know that by reading the coding guidelines. And for the person to say, well, I don't know whether to code W codes or Y codes or pick them up both, again, all of that information can be found in the injury section of the ICD-10-CM coding guidelines. And they're all broken down by chapter. There's a musculoskeletal section. There's the neoplasm section. There's the injuries. There's everything. The external cause codes, obviously, that's going to be in the section with all of those codes. So that's the thing that you have to understand, guys. This is so easy to fix, but all it takes is for you to actually do the work and pick up the book. That's all it is. It's just picking up the book. There's no secret behind it. It's actually spending the time with the book, looking at the coding guidelines, reading them, working through a workbook and working out the problems. Even though you already have your certification, if you say, like this person said, they don't feel like they were confident at all, well, because the CPC exam is a multiple choice test. So sometimes people will be able to guess their way. And some schools will focus on teaching those tactics of guessing your way through the exam. And then, oh yeah, you can figure it out when you get out in the real world. Well, that's not really fair, because that's why a lot of these companies don't want to hire brand new medical coders, because they don't know how to code. They don't take the time to practice, because the schools reassure them, oh yes, your employer will train you on the job. No, they won't. They will expect you as a brand new coder to know how to code, And if you don't know how to code, the way to fix it is to practice. So there's that Nelly book. There's the CPC study guide. Even if you have a HEMA credential, you can still use a CPC study guide, because to me, the CPC study guide is written very well for brand new people, and it can be easily understood. Okay. HEMA does have their books, but in some of those books, they only give either the even number answers or the odd number answers. I don't know. But they don't give all the answers in some of those books. So I don't like that. I feel like if you're going to buy a book, it needs to have the answers in it, because how do you know if you're actually getting the right answer or not? If you're on the right track, how do you know? That's why you buy a book. So the fact that there's some answers that are skipped to me is just so... That's why I recommend the books that I recommend, okay? So the CPC study guide and the ICD-10-CM and ICD-10-PCS coding handbook with the answers, okay? That's what I recommend. And those are the 2 workbooks that you can get. You can go to the public library. The public library, folks. Go there. Explore all the coding books that they have. Sometimes they have other workbooks that I don't recommend, but if that's all you can find, then go for it. Use your books. That's all you have to do, is use your books. And some of you are still running in circles asking these questions. If you listen to me when I say, you've got to work through the workbooks. You have to read the coding guidelines. You don't have to read the coding guidelines all in one sitting. You can stretch it out over a week. Read a few pages here, a few pages there. I've done a demonstration video on how to do it already. And no, I'm not going to link it. Y'all can look that stuff up. Medical Coding with Blue, ICD-10 coding guidelines, and you will see all the videos where I've talked about it. Okay? So that's the thing. I want y'all to be strong. I want y'all to be able to be self-sufficient, that you can go out there and do this stuff. I'm leading you the right way. But, you know, the thing is, guys, when you are out there, these employers are going to have very little patience for people who feel like this. If you find somebody who is supportive of you, and like this company here, she's saying that they sound like they want to hire her, even though they know she doesn't have any experience other than, going through this internship with the HCC place and going through Practico, that she knows that they know that that's the only thing that she's had, but yet she's still not accepting this as a good thing, that she's still not accepting this as that, they're still interested in hiring me despite all of this. So shouldn't that do something for your confidence? Again, she's so preoccupied with the fact that she doesn't understand all of these things. Again, if you would go back to the guidelines and read them, then you would know. Then it would make more sense. Because like I've said before, when it comes to reading the coding guidelines, it's not going to make sense when you're in school, but you should still do it, right? But when you get out in the real world, that's when it'll start to make sense. And I guarantee that if this person actually went back and started reading the coding guidelines, now that she's in the real world, it would start to make more sense. Okay? Because the people who are strong with those guidelines, those are the people that succeed. Those are the people that succeed. The people who practice with the workbooks, with their coding manuals. Like I said, you don't want to get the if you don't want to get the workbooks, and you say, well, Blue, I can't afford it, all I have is the books. Again, try the public library. They may be able to help you find that book. And even if it's not the current year, maybe it's a few years old, that's okay. It's okay to use an older workbook. Obviously not too far back. 2022 is far back enough. If you find a 2021 book, that's okay. You just need something to practice on. And there's also Just Coding. JustCoding.com has a free subscription, and they have a paid subscription. I always recommend for my new medical coders to get yourself the free subscription, because with the free subscription, you get access to 5-question coding quizzes. And these coding quizzes cover ICD-10 coding, CPT, and ICD-10 So that's something that you can use to help you practice. And that's something that can help you. And it's no cost to you. All it's going to take is for you to spend the time with it. And if you say, well, Blue, those questions were really easy, because I've had ungrateful people before say, oh, those questions were so easy, and, I need something more difficult. Okay, if you're using the multiple choice, then yeah, you can figure some of that stuff out after a while. But if you're covering it up like I've recommended, and you have to actually look up the codes on your own, that's when you're going to see the difference. That's when you're going to see the difference. And I recommend that even if you are maybe not a coder right now just yet, and you're still in school, you should absolutely be covering up those answers. You should not be working from multiple choice. You should be trying to look up the answers on your own. And then see if your answers are hitting the mark, if you're getting really close, or if you're right on the money. Okay? Because again, that's going to tell you what you need to focus on and what you need to really, study for. Because sometimes people will get certain specialties a lot easier than others. So that's going to be the difference between somebody who is studying appropriately to help themselves to build that confidence versus somebody who's running around in circles like this person, not knowing what to do. Even though they say, oh, I watch your videos from time to time. No, you probably haven't. Because again, if you did, you would know I've given all of these answers before. Okay? All of these answers before. I just want y'all to learn this the proper way, because when you learn it the proper way, and then you're able to be free enough in yourself to say, okay, now I can really start to explore and understand what's going on here. That's going to make you start to enjoy the field a lot more. But again, if you are trying to distract yourself with, oh, you know, what are the shortcut ways? What's the easy way? Oh, it's all AI and the electronic health record is going to take care of all the coding. All of those things are always wrong. There's always an error, that because it can't critically think. The electronic health record, AI, is written in code. So it's only looking for things, right? It's just like when I had an instance where the provider documented the word fall. But in the context, the doctor was saying that the patient has had the injury since the season of the fall, but did not add season, but just said the patient has had this condition since the fall. Well, Smarty AI and the electronic health record highlights fall because now it's looking for an injury, when that had absolutely nothing to do with what was going on in that electronic health record. Absolutely nothing at all. Nothing at all. And then they'll sometimes, like the computer-assisted coding, will sometimes highlight all the things that are in the problem list. Well, you know you're not supposed to be coding from the problem list. That all the conditions that are supposed to be looked at and considered for abstraction are going to be throughout the document. It is not going to be in the problem list. So again, how do you know all of this? You know all of this by reading those coding guidelines, because it's going to tell you in there what's relevant and what is not relevant. When do Y codes apply? When do W codes apply? You know, those are the things that you would know if you were looking in the coding guidelines, if you were reading them. You know, and like I've said, if you're studying independently or even you're in the program, you need to be reading those coding guidelines once per week. And yes, it's 120 pages online. It is 36, so like 60 something, almost 70 pages in the book, only because the font size is different. And if you say, well, Blue, that's just too much reading. Well, what do you think the exam is going to be? And what do you think trips up people the most in the exam? Is that, oh, Blue, I was reading too slow. So that tells me that you weren't reading the coding guidelines, because that's what it is. It's all about speed and reading. Speed and reading. So if you say you don't like to read, that you're just not a fast reader, sometimes you need to put aside what you say you don't like, and you need to concentrate on, okay, this is what this field requires. How about I just go with it? How about I just go with it and I do what I'm supposed to do, which is read these coding guidelines? Because guess what happens when you start reading? The more you read, the faster you get. And you can get so fast that you can start to like really, okay, I got this. And you're just looking at it, and your brain is going so fast with taking in all of this information. Okay? So that's something that it's just going to build over time. It's a skill that you build over time. And it's going to require patience. It's going to require you to actually put in the work. All right? But again, if you're trying to, find the easy ways, you're trying to find the shortcuts, you will not find them here on my channel. Because that is not what this channel is for. I want people who are going to want to be in this field because they enjoy it and they want to learn it. And it's not just, oh, well, I'm only going to put half the effort in. You need to put all the effort in. Because again, no one is coming to save you when it comes to these things and learning. You have to depend on yourself. Because even people who have years of experience can sometimes not know as much as somebody who's just barely coming in. Because even for veteran coders, they can sometimes get caught up in just being in one specialty and not looking into other things. So that makes them forget a lot of things, versus the new person who's coming in with a fresh set of knowledge because they don't have any bad habits to break. But again, you have to seize that want to learn. You have to learn. You have to. And the only way you're going to do that is through practice. It is through reading. It is through putting in the time. And even if you say, well, Blue, it's too much. I'm working all these hours and things like that. 20 hours is very easy to hit, especially when you break it down. You break it down 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at lunchtime, 30 minutes in the afternoon. You could be listening to something. You could be working with flashcards on whatever it is that you are suffering through when it comes to that you don't understand. Either the guidelines, you could be reading the guidelines during that time. You know, you could be doing anything, okay? And then 1 hour at home, and then you take a break and you do another hour, and that is 2 hours. You could be working through a workbook. You could be looking through your book, okay? And all of that counts as study time. And working through that workbook, you know, you're going to be able to, okay, you'll start to get faster after a while. Things will start to make more sense. But they're not going to make sense if you keep running away from it. At least this is my advice anyway. So with that said, guys, y'all have to put in the time. And the books that I recommend are in the description box below. Again, another thing that I had to go through on another video where I talked about what was in the description box, you know, because people will still stand around asking, I don't understand. I don't know what books to get. Those are the books that I recommend, okay? But that's only for the coding portion. You can look anywhere for like HIPAA things. If you need to brush up on HIPAA or any of those things like that, you can certainly find that at the public library as well. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.